Hour number 2. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Drew Brees is going to be calling us here in 5 minutes. Record-setting NFL quarterback. Joy Taylor is joining me. Last night, my wife and I, we were watching a little bit of this, and she's not really a big sports fan, and she was, asking some questions about Drew Brees, and I was just saying, he's a guy that's overcome a lot of obstacles. A lot of quarterbacks, they go to the big school, and they come into the league, and they, dad was an NFL player. Drew Brees had none of that and ended up breaking Brett Favre and Peyton Manning's records last night, so he'll join us in 5 minutes. Speaking of great quarterbacks, Tom Brady would certainly qualify for that. He was talking about Patrick Mahomes, and they play each other this week. The Patriots play the Kansas City Chiefs. And, he was on a Boston radio station, WEEI Brady, and he was talking about, it wasn't a shot at Mahomes to me, but he was talking about how the game now has changed for young quarterbacks.
I think football was different then. I think in some ways pro football is more of glorified college football. So I think in some ways it's maybe the transition, it's a more similar game than what it used to be, when I first started. So I think football now is removing some of the physical elements of the game. It's more of a space game. And, you see a lot of kind of college plays, more in the pro game now than what I remember when I started. So, that's just kind of how things have went over the last bunch of years.
There's by the way, completion percentages. What Drew Brees is completing, 78% of his throws. I do think the game is easier if you're a really talented quarterback today than it was 15 years ago. I don't think that's a shot. But I think what the NFL's done brilliantly, and they've done this my entire life, they're the great borrowers. They're not stealing everybody else's ideas. They're borrowing them and making them their own. They borrowed from the XFL. A lot of the camera angles you see, XFL. They've borrowed plays and coaches from the CFL, Canadian football. They've borrowed concepts from arena football. Now they're borrowing concepts from college football. People worry so much about being original. Everything's copied. And there's basically in music, there's only so many riffs. They say that every sitcom ever created has 3 basic themes. All Netflix is a bigger, broader international version of HBO. All Uber is a different form of taxis. If you look at the number 1 movie in America right now is Star is Born. It's its 3rd remake. If you're sitting around worrying about, oh my God, this is my original content, nothing's original.
Nothing is new.
Nothing is new. It's taking concepts, borrowing them, and making them your own.
I would say the NFL even borrows things from the NBA now.
Well, this is absolutely true. I think when I watched the baseball playoffs last night on one TV and the NFL on the other. In baseball, I'm waiting for something to happen. In football, I don't have to wait anymore. They got rid of huddles. By the way, a couple years ago, the NBA loosened up the celebrations. And that, to me, was borrowing from the NBA. Because if a guy dunks in the NBA, Steph Curry shimmies, and it's okay. It's part of the celebration. It ends up on the internet. It's free publicity on Twitter and Facebook. And the NFL's like, you know what? NBA's crushing it in social media. What if we let our players celebrate what's happened? You go on a Sunday, you watch Twitter, and the celebrations are on as much as the touchdowns.
I know, miraculously, it did not kill the game that they let them do.
I myself do not like celebrations. I'm not a celebration person. John, you know this. I literally wake up, I go chop wood. I do sit-ups. I'm not a big celebration person.
You read the newspaper with your prune juice?
But NFL ratings are up, okay? Almost nothing on linear TV is up. And they're up because they've just borrowed a bunch of ideas. And I love the current, I love it. I love the current NFL. I mean, I watched the Chicago Bears. That's a 60-40 college offense. I watched the LA Rams. That feels like a 60-40 college offense. So I don't have any problem with it at all. I think it's great. I think they're the great borrowers. I don't think Tom Brady was banging on anybody. Listen, if you look at the completion percentages in the NFL right now, it's like 7-on-7 passing drills. Drew Brees is almost at 80%. I mean, Cam Newton is not a precision quarterback. He's in the mid-60s. I mean, Joe Namath finished at 50%. Joe Namath let go of a football. Coin flip, completed or not completed. Drew Brees lets go of a football 8 out of 10 times. Somebody will catch it. Now, some of that's Drew Brees. Some of that is the new football we have, which I think is absolutely, without question. Yeah, here are the highest completion percentages. I've never been a time in my life there's like 7 guys in the 70s. I always said you got to get to 62%. Now, when I look at football, I'm like, you kind of got to get to 66%. You got to be 65 or 66%. And I was always like, when Tim Tebow was winning games, I'm like, this is not sustainable. He's completing 47%. That's just not sustainable. And I've been critical of Cam Newton through the years. I'm like 58%. Eli Manning without OBJ is 58%. That's not sustainable. You get to a point now where I'm not sure if it's sustainable to be like 60, 61. I mean, Dak Prescott's 28th in the NFL. And but by the way, John, look it up. I think he's like 64. He's not. Yeah, Dak Prescott's 62%. And that's 28th in the league. And the knock on him from Troy Aikman this morning on Dallas radio, that's not good enough. So, there you go. Drew Brees going to call us here in a minute, I've been told. By the way, here's the other thing I saw last night. I'm going to do herd hierarchy, but I'm going to try to make it post Drew Brees because it takes about 7-8 minutes. Here's the other thing I was watching last night when Drew was tearing up Washington. The other thing I was watching was Washington. As critical as I have been about the Philadelphia Eagles, you can't sell that stock. Washington had a week off and a day. They had a bye week, right? So they veteran quarterback, veteran coach. This should have been a very, very good performance by Washington. Now, I know it's tough to win there. That was awful. The NFC East is an absolute mess. Think about this. The 5 lowest scoring teams in the NFC. Now, think about this. Arizona's number 1. 2, 3, 4, 5 are NFC East teams. It's just a mess. Now, the good news is Dallas is limited, New York's limited, and Washington's limited. Philadelphia is not limited. Philadelphia is injured. Philadelphia is trying to get their act together because they lost coordinators. But when I watched Washington last night, and I watched the Giants this weekend, and I watched the Cowboys, I see limited. I don't think Philadelphia is limited. I just don't think they can get the ship right yet. But I think they have Carson Wentz. They have a great defensive line. They have good offensive personnel. They've got some good running backs. They're all beat up. But I'm watching that last night, and if you're Washington and you're looking at that, there are games in the NFL that leave a mark, and you're like, oh, that's not great. That's just not great. That was one of those for Washington. That wasn't a singular loss. That spoke volumes. Veteran quarterback, extra time off, veteran NFL coach, and not competitive. And it should be noted, New Orleans is going to win a lot of games this year, but that defense, you can take advantage of it. That defense gives up yards, and they didn't last night. All right, herd hierarchy. I'm guessing Drew Brees, hoping Drew Brees, efforting Drew Brees is somewhere around the corner. Everybody knows Untucked shirts. We all know Untucked shirts. Replace that sloppy mock look of an untucked dress shirt. Shirts designed to be worn untucked. And a lot of people think got to be in a magazine to wear those things. Not true. Untucked designers have mastered the proportions that determine how your shirt falls. Now they have a new relaxed fit option for bigger dudes who want the same polished, casual look of Untucked. Go to untuckit.com and put in the code HERD, H-E-R-D, for 20% off your purchases. Buy big. They have 25 retail outlets as well. So for all you guys, shape, size, tall, thin, wide, long torso, doesn't matter. Untuckit.com, code HERD, H-E-R-D, for 20% off. Unslop yourself. Unsmock yourself. Untuckit.com, code HERD.